Alright everyone, and welcome back once again. So for today's video, we're going to take a look at the changes that were made to Vegeta via his Zenkai. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this. Vote, is he good? Is he bad? Is he mid? Let me know in the comments. Stay tuned because tomorrow we're going to have videos showcasing this guy. I could stay up tonight, but it would just be a bad idea, man. It'd just be a bad idea because kids will be up early in the morning and it's just a bad idea. anyways. So we're going to have some videos. I can't promise anything, but I might. Just depends how I feel. Anyways, so yeah, stay tuned, hit the thumbs up, subscribe. So Vegeta, let's talk about the changes that were made to Vegeta's kit. I'm not going to really spend much time going over his pre-transformation kit, but if you want to see a video talking about that, check it out. The link will be down below. But what I will show you is the stats for this character. He came out for the 1-year anniversary, so I guess long overdue to get an update. But there was a good reason why. It's because of the locking and stuff, why they kind of just held off on him. But he's got 240,000 strike attack at 14 stars, by the way, as a melee character. 148,000, 150,000 on defenses, 222,000 blast attack. I don't really care much about that. But really, all these numbers need to go up by an average of probably 28 to 35,000, pretty much all of them. And that's probably what's going to wind up happening, but that's going to be a really big deal where his stats lie. But one thing I want to kind of point out for people is people always talk about, well, what are his stats? What are his stats? Just don't forget he's a Zenkai, so he's going to get 40 and 35% splits with the Zenkai ability for himself, right? Zenkai characters always have that extra split there. So, okay, let's take a look at what we got here. So his main ability now draws the ultimate, restores ki by 20. That's a big deal because it didn't have that. Increases card draw speed by 2 levels for 3 counts. I'll talk about why it does that in a minute. Also, they cleared up the text a little bit here. Just made it a little bit more normal, I guess. Nullifies endurance effects for 30 counts. Also has an extra debuff in here of minus 100% to health restoration for 30 counts. That was their pre Zenkai. So the changes to post Zenkai is he gets ki and the draw speed. You may ask why draw speed 2 levels for 3 counts is pretty dumb. I wouldn't disagree with you, but this actually has some interesting utility. But the reason why it works this way is because what's going to happen is ideally you go ahead and run through your combo or whatever the case is. I mean, it kind of depends what you're doing with the lock. Like maybe you just enter off a blast and just instantly go into this. Or I talked about in a previous video how the nullification of endurance actually has some really powerful utility, and it's not something you can really have a counterplay to. If they switch in, instantly go for the main, and you're still locked, and they're gonna nullify your endurance, you're just gonna lose that character if the rush goes through. Like there's nothing you could do about it. You can't switch. You're gonna be locked. Like, you're stuck, right? So there's a lot of utility in here. It has different ways you can kind of use this main ability, and depending on what you're doing with the lock. But the reason why the draw speed is there is because the ultimate clears out your hand and gets a damage buff of, I believe, 75%. I believe it's 75%. It's in here somewhere. Ultimate, yeah, 75%. So the extra 3, he already has 1. So the extra 2 plus the 1 he already has in the unique we'll get to in a minute means that he'll pretty much fill his hand, long story short. Not to mention, if you do this all on entry, like he'll pick up a strike card too. Like he's gonna have a full hand in most cases. That's why that's the way it is, if you're wondering. But like you can technically just say screw the ultimate getting 75 and use this as a Dragon Ball farming mechanic, because he'll pretty much reload his hand. He'll pick up 20 ki here. He won't really have a ton of ki outside of that. I mean, maybe again if it was on entry for the 10 counts in that window, you probably had this 30 here and the strike card draw, blah blah. But pretty much just a burst damage character with interesting utility. So the main's very powerful. The health restoration debuff also is pretty crazy too. 30 counts. The only way this could have been any better is if it was all enemies, but that would be really good. 100% debuff is a lot though. So whoever's out there, if they by chance don't die for whatever reason, they're not going to be able to regen pretty much anything. So 25 counts are needed to use it, but very powerful main ability, and again, has different ways to use it. Yes, you could be creative with this guy. The following effects occur when this character enters the battlefield: draws a strike, restores 30 ki, and gets a 50% strike damage buff, and he gets a draw speed by 1 level for 10 counts. I kind of talked about this one, the way it synergizes with the main, but again, the 1 draw speed here, assuming you still have this, because it's only for 10 counts, right? He has some wonky stuff in his kit with counts and stuff. We'll get to that in the next couple of passives, but yeah, assuming you still have it, he'll get 3 draw speed levels and you'll be able to go from there and just do really good damage. He gets the 50% strike damage, which isn't bad either, but he doesn't have a ton of actual damage buffs. I don't remember there being very many. So shorten sub count by 2 by default, so that's really good. While your other characters need 10, he'll need 8, so he'll have the utility of switching in a lot. But one thing that's really powerful with him on like God Key, for example, or Vegeta Clan, is that there are characters that manipulate sub count a lot. And I mean, just throw out another character is like this guy who reduces his own sub count. Like there's a lot of interesting sub count manipulation, so a very powerful effect to have just on his teams. The following effects occur when he enters the battlefield: inflicts enemies with no switching for 5 counts, activates twice. Again, I talked about the way this is just crazy, especially in conjunction with that specific effect in the main ability. It's powerful no matter what, right? Because you can use it. You don't need to use it with the main ability to guarantee an endurance character dies on a rush or whatever, or with your ultimate. Like it doesn't. You don't need to ensure that you get the kill with you know, an endurance character, but that's one way you can use it. What if the enemy's low on HP? What if it's somebody like Ultra Gogeta or Ultra Goku who does have type advantage, but like what if you're gonna just pop your rush and just say screw everything else, I don't care about anything, I'll save my main for post rush. And that's another thing with this main, like post rush you get a full hand. And by the way, his ultimate has blast armor too now, so like this guy's interesting. Like I think he's a character a lot of people are just going to instantly say is mid, but when you really get into the nitty gritty and start breaking down what he can do and the way he can kind of play, it's really interesting, man. It's really interesting. I'm not saying off the jump that I think he's great, because I do think he has good competition. We'll talk about that later on, but there's interesting things in his kit. Inflicts enemies with a downgrade of +10 sub count, so okay, I guess. Or not sub count, excuse me, that would be crazy. Strike art cost. Third passive, this one unlocks with Zenkai 3. The following effects occur according to the number of counts elapsed with the current character. After 5 counts, you get 30 ki. I believe the movies, well, he's not here, movies Yellow Goku had that, the old one, not the newer one, the Zenkai 7 one, had that pre-Zenkai, and they changed it so it doesn't have this elapse on it. But after 5 counts, he gets that. The way it worked on that Goku, and it is the same way it'll work on this Vegeta, though. If you're wondering, what's going to happen is he's going to get a combo going, and midway through that combo, he'll pick up an extra 30 ki passively. So I talk a lot about his combo ability with the draw speed, blah, blah, but he'll pick up 30 ki extra that you probably weren't accounting for. It was kind of annoying when that Goku would do that. I don't think he does it anymore, but when he would do that, I have to pull it. I have to do it now. But when he would do that, I remember when he came out, it just was like, oh, in a couple of counts, I'm going to get this extra key. It would be nice to have it, but I'm going to get it. Oh, there it is. So, yeah, here it is in the first unique ability, somewhere in here. The following effects occur to self after 5 counts after entering the battlefield. Yeah, extra key and draw speed. That also was annoying, the draw speed being delayed. Let's see if it's still there. When he enters the battlefield, blah, blah. He just gets it naturally. Yeah, that's what I'm pretty sure they changed that. So it's interesting to see them add that to this character. Now, speaking of add to the character, he gets 10 counts. After 10 counts, he gets shortens ally sub count by 2. Now that, I typically say sub count manipulation is one of the best things in the game, because it just is. Because switching a lot is your only real defense in this game, because of Vanish. But this one's kind of tricky, because like, it takes 10 counts to use it, right? But like, come along with me. Characters switch in 10 counts. So like, the only way this is truly useful is if you had like a cover change character that gets punished with like +3 sub counts. A lot of older ones do. Some of the newer ones really just don't do that anymore. But like, they get +3 sub counts naturally after they use their cover change or whatever. Or like an enemy doing a sub count manipulation, things like that. It's not great, but you know. And the only reason he'd stay out there beyond 10 counts anyway, given the nature of his abilities and how short time they are, the only reason he'd be out there is if you were trying to stall, or if you had a green card in your hand and you use that to kind of extend how long you're out there. But you're never really going to get this, and when you do get it, you're probably never going to need it. So kind of weird. Restores own health by 25% if own remaining health is 50% or below after the enemy's attack is over 1 time. Good effect. Good amount of HP, a quarter of his HP coming back whenever he hits below 25. So a good recovery effect. 1 time only again. This is the Zenkai 6 ability, plus 20% damage inflicted against LOE, cannot be canceled. I talked about in my other video I talked about earlier, how I wish this was just a powerful opponent, but I understand why it's not. But it's still very powerful. It's very powerful. The problem with LOE is that this guy doesn't go neutral, and LOE has 2 of the best yellow characters in the game. So, yeah. But hey, to Vegeta's credit, he has that null endurance, so maybe they think twice about throwing somebody out there. Applies the following effects itself when the battle starts, plus 20% damage, then some cut here. They give these really low numbers to these Zenkais. I'm pretty sure it's because the Zenkai ability as well is on the character. But when you kind of break it down, he doesn't have a ton of damage buffs. He has this, he has 20% specifically to LOE. He doesn't have any in this one here, actually. He has health restoration and just other stuff in the third passive. The second passive doesn't have any either. It's not any damage buffs. Yeah, he only has the damage buff on the first one, which is 50% strike. And there's no general damage buff on the main ability either. Yeah, no general damage there either. Interesting. So this guy's almost like a one-hit wonder. He has to. That's probably why his ultimate got blast armor. And forgive me if I'm missing any. I'm trying to skim through this, but I don't see any. Obviously, we just went over it. It's probably, but like he's putting all his faith in that ultimate. So yeah, the blue card still does major impact, but it does give a general damage buff. So there's a damage buff of 20% for 20 counts. Everything in this dude's kit is very short amount of time too, which just screams his playstyle. Again, he's a burst damage dealer. He's designed to get in, do what he needs to do, and get back out. Green card here, still combos or counters against blast arts. I was hoping they'd add tap shots. It doesn't appear that they've done that. By the way, shout out to Miguel for having this info on Twitter. I should have done that earlier. It now restores ki. I don't believe it did, but even if it did, it's, you know, it's good to have it. Let's see. Yeah, it didn't. I talked about how it would be awesome in my other video if they added that, and they did. Inflicts downgrade of impact damage, combos into everything. So not bad as a combo starter. So yeah, there's that. But again, with the nature of this character, everything he has to do pretty much has to be within a 15 count window while he still has that strike damage buff. The strike damage is going to extend to pretty much everything he does. But like, he has to do everything in a short window of time. 15 isn't short. But if you waste any time with this character, you're going to start seeing buffs and draw speed and stuff start falling off quickly. Okay. So here's the ultimate. Like I said, the best thing in his kit, really, it's all predicated on the ultimate. Massive impact, destroys all your own cards upon activation. Did it have massive pre? Okay. I feel like ultimates typically have massive, and then it extends to supreme on the powerful ultimates. Destroys all your own cards on activation. Like I said, this is why he gets that extra draw speed, because it's designed to give you as close to a full hand as possible. If not, 30% is very bad. This is why well, it's not very bad. It's okay. But this is why you want to kind of use this earlier in the chain. They're basically saying sacrifice those cards that you could do extra damage with, but also consider the fact those cards could have Dragon Balls. Maybe you want to use at least one of them, right? But they're saying to sacrifice those cards to do this ultimate in ideally this short window, because you'll have the no switch, things like that for a short amount of time to just do what you can do. But 75% is a ton, and they added Blast Armor. I'll tell you, man, they very rarely add effects like Blast Armor or Nullify Endurance. God forbid, Nullify Cover Change. They very rarely add these effects to characters, and I think that's 2 in a row they've added a Blast Armor to. So it just goes to show you the state of Zenkais. They don't give these characters some of these crazy effects, and Blast Armor is not even that crazy. I feel like every character with an ultimate at this point needs Blast Armor on the ultimate. Just the utility is crazy, and it's really underwhelming when they don't have it, right? So it's nice to see it. Zenkai abilities for purple God Key. Okay, speaking of God Key, that is, I mean, Vegeta Clan, Saiyans. He's not a movie's Vegeta, even though he's from that arc, but he's from the Dragon Ball Super anime. So let's talk about God Key and Vegeta Clan. You know, in the other video I mentioned a couple times, I talked about how the direct competition is this character. So there are going to be players that have this character at a very low star level because they only pulled him once or whatever, which is what, 4 stars naturally on their initial banner. Have they been on anything else? Okay, they have. Okay. Anyways, so like 4 stars naturally, or lower than that, depending on when you got them, what you did. Maybe you pitied to them, and that, God forbid, hopefully that didn't happen. But anyways, there are going to be players that have this character at the high star level, like myself, 14 stars, because the extremely high drop, you know, that felt pretty powerful. And yeah, so I took advantage of it, and a lot of players did. So at a 14, at a red star range, you probably just run this character, because the utility of the switch, having the ability to negate typing or reverse typing, is crazy, man. It really is. It's one of the best mechanics you can have on any character. Not to mention, this character in and of themselves has some other very powerful mechanics like Vanish Gauge Restoration. They have nullifying special covers, nullifying endurance. They have anti-revive. Like, this character genuinely has so much. They have so much sustain with the healing. They draw the green cards. They shortens ally subcount. Like, this character just does dumb stuff just for the hell of doing it. So yeah, like, it's gonna be really hard in my mind to say that Vegeta will really supplant this character's placement on any team that they both be on, which is unfortunate because they're on the same teams. So there's that. But if you don't have, and this is why I've been saying, is that if you don't have the main character, especially if they're like an LF or whatever, then these Zenkais, they're for you, man. Sometimes they don't feel like they're good enough to even be a second option. I saw that reception with Android 13 where people thought he was really bad, and I say he's a second option. They're like, nah, he's not good enough to make me want to run this team and be a second option under the Androids. And that's a fair assessment. I think this Vegeta is fine. And if nothing else, you could be a really annoying player to play against with the locking and utility of stuff like that. And I want to kind of just end things on this. Is the interesting thing with that Vegeta is I talked about how he really is lacking in his own individual damage buffs. And I assume that I have to assume that when it comes to these Zenkais, when they do stuff like that, is they're factoring in that extra 40% stats that these characters get, the other characters get, that don't get, excuse me. But the teams that he's on have characters that can very well buff him. Like this guy doing all these extra damage buffs and stuff like that. Like he has access to powerful characters on his teams, which technically he has access to every character because the leader slot. But yeah, I want to be kind to Vegeta. I think, like I said, I've said this word a billion times in this video. Utility, I think he has a ton of it, and he has a very high baseline. I think with a lot of Zenkai characters, they wind up being bad because they just don't have the baseline kit pre-Zenkai to say, oh yeah, well they're gonna be good no matter what. Like a character like Merge Zamasu, they did very minor things to him, but he wound up being very powerful and is still usable, very usable, because he had a good baseline. Right? He wasn't even that old. He was a 2-year character at the time. Well, 2-year anniversary character. So this Vegeta, I'm gonna go ahead and conclude on this. If I were to give him a rating without doing any gameplay, obviously, and just knowing what I know about him and the way that he would play, just imaginary, I'm going to give him a rating of a 6.5 out of 10. And what would I make a 10 on my scale? A 10 would be the tippy top. Like a 10 is Ultra Goku, Ultra Gogeta territory. So I really don't think that's bad. Where would I put the tag characters of Goku and Vegeta? They're like an 8 to 8.5. That's where like my scale is for this personally. I think he's in it, and 5 would be like the average characters that are the good characters, you know, stuff like that. So I think he's above average clearly, and if for no other reason than the things he can do and the interesting way he can play. But I don't think he's a crazy good character. But that's kind of just what we get from Zenkais nowadays. But I'll tell you, he dropped pre-anniversary for one reason and one reason only. To get your CC, and I'm going to tell you, I said on Great Saiyaman 1 and 2, I was pretty much done summoning for Zenkais, and I was going to start doing things the way that you guys do and should be doing, which is just free, which is why there's no video on Great Saiyaman 1 and 2 yet. I'm gonna pull for Vegeta. I don't recommend it, but he's hype. He's a good character. He's got notoriety. Good for videos, good for views. People are going to like it. So it is what it is, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about Vegeta down below in the comments. Have an awesome day, everyone, and I'll see all of you next time.